If you live in China, then you can pick up one of these for $360 US. It's the Mi 6. For everyone else, it's going to cost a little bit more, around $480 US, but it is a very premium mobile phone with top-end specs on it. It's got a Snapdragon 835 processor, Adreno 540 GPU, 6GB of RAM, 64GB of internal storage, up to 128GB of UFS 2.1 storage, which is very quick for a mobile phone. It has an ultrasonic fingerprint reader and 1080p screen. Now, these are leftovers from the Mi 5S, but it's not a bad thing, as it's a very nice screen and the fingerprint reader really does work extremely well. So on the rear, we've got this new dual camera setup, a 2x optical fixed zoom, 12 megapixel sensor, and the other 12 megapixel sensor is more of a standard affair here with just optical image stabilization, but it happens to be 4-axis stabilization. Battery life has also increased to 3,350 milliamp hours. However, we've lost the 3.5mm headphone jack, so it seems they give us something and then take away something else, which is a little sad to see. We've got curved glass on the rear now that feels good in hand. Bottom of the Mi 6 has a loudspeaker, the microphone, and a USB Type-C port. And on the left, we just have the dual SIM tray. So there's no micro SD card support in there, sadly, just like the Mi 5, the Mi 5S. It seems that Xiaomi, they're not putting micro SD cards in their flagships because they want you to buy the higher storage capacity phones. The buttons on the right side have a good feel to them. They're made out of metal. And they changed the front-facing camera. It is now an 8 megapixel unit, so we've got smaller pixels in there, and as a result, I feel the quality is not as good as the Mi 5's 4 megapixel ultra pixel camera, which had larger pixels on it. And on the top, there's an IR transmitter, secondary microphone, which is used for noise cancellation, and also the secondary mic in video. Now, looking at the display, it is a really decent 1080p display, one of the best that you'll find for 1080p. To me, it looks just as sharp as a 1440p screen because it does have 428 ppi being 5.15 inches. Maximum brightness tops out at 540 lux, which is good enough for viewing it in direct sunlight, only just, but it's not as bright as my Samsung Galaxy S8 in direct sunlight. The build quality is superb. It's very good. The fit and finish on here, really, there is no faults with it. There is one minor complaint, though, that I have, and that is just around the cameras here. It's a little rough, the edges. There's like a metal trim that goes around those two camera modules, and it's a little sharp there, so they could improve on that. It could just be my model there, but it feels in hand just as good as my Samsung Galaxy S8. The build, very similar, because we've still got that metal frame, painted metal, glossy black frame on there. Both of these phones, of course, absolute fingerprint smudge magnets. So in the box, you do get this TPU case, which fits it perfectly and makes the phone a little less prone to dropping because the design of it being all glass, like any smartphone that's all made out of glass, it is extremely slippery in hand, and it does look good in this case. It's not as premium as the case we got on the Mi Mix, which was made out of leather. It is quite a cheap case, but the quality of it's fine, and you can see it's got cutouts there for the camera and for all of the ports there, including the IR transmitter and secondary mic at the top. So now we have the biggest con of the phone, and that is the ROM itself is just not stable. While the performance of it is quick and snappy most of the time, certain applications just don't want to work sometimes, and will also cause, you can see now, actually look at that, trying to run CPU-Z, it just freezes then for a second. I don't think that's going to load properly, and I've seen it cause the whole phone to reboot. Completely unacceptable. It's really disgraceful, the state that this ROM is in. Now, I know that Xiaomi will fix this later on when they get a stable ROM on this phone. It's going to be really good, perhaps one of their best yet that I have seen. And Asphalt Extreme was trying to also load that. Look at that. There we go. The phone has completely locked up. And I've seen the UI reload again. See if I can load Asphalt. So very poor ROM, really, so unstable. So the Snapdragon 835 that it has a maximum turbo of 2.45 gigahertz. It's also coupled with 6 gigabytes of RAM and UFS 2.1 storage, meaning it gets really good scores here. Very quick. This is flagship, top of the line kind of results here, benchmarks. If benchmarks mean something to you, then this is the phone that really does get some incredible scores here. So the sequential read speeds, these are almost as good as my Samsung Galaxy S8. 700 megabytes per second, sequential write 206, the random read 4Ks and writes also excellent, really good. So no bottlenecks there with the storage. The Antutu score, again, if you love your benchmarks, it's really high, 182,000. Very decent result there. Now the wireless AC really impresses me. Very good range. I'm able to get really good speed still over the other side of the studio here, and maxing out the maximum speeds that I can basically get out of my fiber optic line, which is 300 megabits per second. I'm able to achieve that. Only top wireless chipsets can do that. The 3G speeds, nothing amazing. They're fine. 4G speeds as well, really good. No problems with the signal strength. So connectivity, very good. We also have Bluetooth 5 on there. Here is the Work 2 score. Again, another really high benchmark score, aided by the fact that we've got UFS 2.1 storage. And the GPS, no problems whatsoever. It locks on to satellites really quick. Never lost my position. I tested it in my car as well. Very good. Accuracy gets down to around 3 meters, which is perfectly fine. So very happy with the GPS performance. So onto battery life, I did run various different tests over 3 or 4 days. Here I got a on-screen time of 11 hours. Now this was medium to light use. The brightness was set at 200 lux. And the screen here, you can see there 10 hours. Now that always isn't going to be the way when it comes to battery life, but I am impressed with the battery life. It's very good for a flagship chipset. You can see I was doing some gaming there. Now this is my second test where I got 7 hours and 50 minutes of on-screen time. So the average I would say is around about 8 hours depending on what you're doing of on-screen time. Just to quickly cover the charge times, you can see here the results you get. So it takes a while to charge from 80% to 100%, and overall to fully charge it from 5% to 100 is just over 2.5 hours there. So it's not the fastest phone, but still quite quick when it comes to charging. The Mi 6 has 2 loudspeakers on it, so it's got one down the bottom here, the microphone's next to it, and out of the earpiece is where the second loudspeaker is. Now I'm going to compare the sound here against my Samsung Galaxy S8. We'll have a listen to the quality of it and just how loud it gets looking at the decibel meter that I have. Alright, so that speaker is loud. The quality of it has definitely improved over previous models because I got that additional speaker. There's a little hint of bass in there. And compared to the Samsung Galaxy S8, I think the S8 sounds slightly better there, but the volume out of it is good. Now, of course, Xiaomi did something really bad, and that is they dropped the 3.5mm headphone jack support. So you're going to have to use this adapter now, which is a little bit annoying, so charging and listening to music at the same time is going to be a problem now. I can report though that the quality out of that Type-C port is really good. It's super clean, there's no hiss, there's no interference, and also the voice call and call quality in general is really good. It's excellent, no problems, top audio quality, just that we are lacking that 3.5mm headphone jack. The Fingerprint Reader on the Mi 5 is front-facing, ultrasonic, and it works every single time for me. Very quick, no need to wake the phone first, just simply place your scan finger on there, it unlocks instantly. So here's the camera application. Nothing's really changed from your typical Xiaomi mobile. However, we do have a couple of different modes here because of that dual camera setup. Tapping this right here uses the second auxiliary sensor with that 2x optical zoom. And this one right here as our portrait mode. So here's a couple of very quick samples. You can see that's my cat there, Vera, and it's taken quite a nice looking photo here with some bokeh blurring the background out there. Now the stitching isn't quite perfect. You can see just on the outer edges of her fur that there's like an effect there. You can see that it's a little bit blurred, so it hasn't stitched it together perfectly, but you can get some nice photos with that. So here are some samples now from the cameras, and you can see here that it does take a really good image. Just have a look at the quality of this flower. I'm happy with the colors as well. The colors, it doesn't tend to overdo it like some mobile phones do, and it captures a lot of detail there. And I feel that the Samsung sensor, which is the one with the optical zoom on, here you can see with the zoom and then without it, it also does a decent job, but only in good light. When things go, as you'll see later on in the samples I'm about to show you, into low light, it doesn't quite have the same result. But overall, I'm very impressed with this camera. I do feel that in good lighting conditions, it really can take a good photo that's as good as my Samsung Galaxy S8. Just check out my comparison. You'll see side by side images of those to see what I mean there. Rear camera now shooting in 4K, the maximum setting. So we don't have the second sensor, the 2x optical zoom one in video mode. Not at this stage. Now it does have face detection autofocus. You can see it focuses there on my camera okay. It's a little slow at times. Now there is 4-axis optical image stabilization. It's going to walk along now, and it works okay, but really it's not made for walking or running. It doesn't have electronic image stabilization as well, so the combination of both would be ideal. Now the audio quality, bit of wind noise at the moment, of course, because it's windy here. I feel that the audio quality isn't as good as it could be. Xiaomi really should up the bit rate and try and improve on the audio quality in video. It's not really up to other flagships. But overall, not bad quality, as you can see. Sample now from the front-facing camera. As you can see, the quality is quite good here, but in direct sunlight it will overexpose your face. It tends to do that. At the moment it's cloudy, so everything's been captured quite well. You can see the cliffs in the distance and even details of the sky, which is really quite good. 1080p maximum resolution here. In low light, as you'll see later on, it does drop frames. 4K again, this time in low light, and you can see it's struggling. It does drop a few frames. Vera. And the focus has a lot more difficulty with these kind of lighting conditions. You see it does pulse in and out there a little. So this is what the front-facing camera is like in low light. It starts to drop frames. It's now at about 15 frames per second, which is really unacceptable for a flagship mobile to be dropping frames, especially with this processor. So when it comes to gaming performance, as you'd expect from an Adreno 540 GPU, it's very fluid, really nice and smooth. You will see the occasional little dip in frames per second and lag, as expected, but overall, top performance out of this GPU, and it'll play all of the latest and greatest games with very playable frames per second. So this is their best phone yet, I believe. Once they can fix that firmware, it really is marred at the moment by their unstable firmware. It's buggy, it can lock up the whole phone, it could reset on you completely for no reason, launching certain applications like CPU-Z seems to do it and trigger it. Apart from that, the build quality is excellent. It's premium, their best yet, splash resistant. We've got very decent battery life on here for a Snapdragon 835. Really good performance, gaming performance is good, GPS is brilliant, very fast, wireless AC, really good 4G. Okay, we're missing the 3.5mm headphone jack, but we do get this second speaker on there, so the loudspeaker performance has improved a little bit. Now the camera performance, some surprises here that the still images in good light take a very decent image, really good, impressed with the performance of both of the cameras there, but the video quality still is a little bit of a letdown. Xiaomi have to improve their video quality, and the audio quality in video, I feel, as well needs to be tweaked. So if they can fix the software side of things, this is a really decent phone for the price, which is going to be dropping. At the moment it's around 460 US. By the time this review is about 3 or 4 months old, it'll probably be selling for around 400 US or even less. Thanks a lot for watching this review. I do hope to catch you back in the channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more up and coming reviews just like this one. Bye for now.